Hey guys, welcome back to the Bloxley Balance. Today we have Sam, my co-host, and we are back with our CEO, Leon Fischer-Brocks. Leon, would you like to give us a couple? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Leon, 25 from Germany, co-founder and CEO at Bloxley currently. And yeah, happy to be here.
It's glad to have you on back again in our third podcast now. And yeah, today I think the main goal is to discuss a lot more about leadership style, and also at the age of 25 running a company. I think that's really impressive. I'm getting close to the age of 25 and it's just scary. But yeah, let's get into it. Leon, how would you describe your overall approach to leadership, and what impact do you think it has on the team, especially you being 25 and leading a team of 30 plus wonderful people?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was always kind of easy. I grew up with people around me who also had businesses before. And the way that they've done it, talking specifically about my father here, is that he was always someone that's very strict, right? But is also very happy to delegate power, right? And I think that has been my main approach over the years, is to hire the people, really trust them in what they are doing, not go into too much depth in controlling and being on people's backs all the time, right? I think it's very important to let the people work freely. I would definitely say I'm someone who's sometimes also too nice in some occasions. While it may not be a bad trait as a person, it could sometimes hinder, the speed of things getting done. But yeah, I would put it in two words. It's delegation of power and tasks to the people that I hire and trust, and then letting them work freely. And the second word would then be empowerment, which probably is goes very hand in hand with the delegation part, is really trusting the people again.
Okay.
I know personally I've got no problems being motivated, but I know Sid,
Hey.
sometimes Sid can be a challenge to motivate.
Hey,
How do you
I'm
how do
very
you keep us
motivated.
motivated? How do you keep us excited about the work we're doing every day?
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, it's worked for, I would say, 90% of the people that I've hired over the years. What I always like to kind of crown myself with is that we haven't had anyone in the 3.5 year history of Bloxley who's ever wanted to quit, right? We've let a few people go, not necessarily because they've done a bad job, but things don't always work out. But there was never someone who deliberately wanted to leave the company, which I think is a great testament of how we approach things, right? And funnily enough, I thought that before COVID, you would need an office, you would need all people sitting there, you would need to be kind of the big watchtower in the back, having, looking over everyone's shoulder and being super precise with everything. But turns out that COVID showed that this was not as actually the case. And from the first people that we've hired in Bloxley, everyone was fully autonomous, right? They were separated in so many different parts of the world, and it's worked out really, really well. I can just say that. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick to that.
I think,
I got
that's
my start over at Google.
wow.
And
Yeah.
for a long time, Google's motto was "Do no evil," and everybody wanted to be good at Google because they had 5-star chefs and all sorts of events going on after hours and swimming pools, and they would do your laundry for you. And it had that very collaborative, fun environment. And for a long time, I'm like, oh man, it'd be nice to get back to Google. But then you kind of realize, oh no, what you really want to do is you don't want to be at Google because Google's not the company it was. You want to start your own Google, and you want to have that place that's great to work, and you want to create whatever the next Google is going to be. And definitely, I hope we're not being too sweet on Bloxley here on the Bloxley branded podcast, but everybody at Bloxley is so smart and humble, and not just in their own swim lanes, and it creates a really great environment to work in that next Google environment.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe one last thing to add. I do definitely see that in the future we're also going to have offices. Where exactly? Not too sure yet. Probably in the United States or maybe in the UK. I think main people should still gather there. I always do also like that. right? I do find myself in a position that if I always work from home, I kind of, I don't dress always nice. And it matters in terms of getting stuff done, right? I feel like when I am in an office, I'm actually getting more stuff done, right? So, but until it gets to that, I think it's worked beautifully. And I think we're going to continue having 80%-ish of the Bloxley workforce work remotely, right? And so, yeah, this is the way that we've approached it.
Definitely I dressed nicer for this podcast. I do.
You did. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Sam, also coming on to your point of how back in the day, say pre-COVID, before, let's say my time of working at least, you mentioned how Google was that fun and hip company to work at. What is it that, let's say, Bloxley can do as we grow, obviously, in scale, that we don't end up looking like one of those evil companies out there once we're, let's say, bigger, obviously? How do we maintain that fun and kind of place that everyone wants to continue working at regardless of our scale?
Well, I think it comes down to the people running the show, right? I think, you can talk about benefits left, right, and center and providing people with X amount of things, right? But to me, what has been always fun is not that I'm at home and I'm free and I can do more or less whatever I want, is actually working with people that all pursue the same goal, that are working collaboratively towards that goal, and who share the same mindset. And I think that is what's going to make it or break it at the workplace. And I think that I'm definitely going to have a big eye on that, is that if it comes to that and we do have an office, that is definitely a culture that we want to facilitate at the workplace, right? It's not too strict. It's very open. As I said, giving people the right time and the right mindset and the right, chance to grow by themselves as well. And I think that is what's going to make the difference, as opposed to a Google, where you probably have a lot of people that potentially are not necessarily needed, but they've been there for so long, and there's no need to cut the job because the businesses are doing so great, right? And I think that if it's too cramped and too many people working, not really, right, but they just gather in an office and just sit their time and then they go home, I think that's what's going to create a little bit of friction inside of the business. So yeah, that's I would guess on me and on the key personnel in the company to keep that culture going.
Okay, no, that does make sense. I mean, I think, I do look forward to that being implemented down the line. And also the fact that, I mean, just my almost 1 year being at Bloxley, I've worked at other startups before. Normally a person at other startups I worked at lasts probably about 5-6 months. And as you mentioned, there have not been any quitters at Bloxley, so that it's honestly just insane to see that, like at a startup especially, where so many people cycle through and go through the position so fast. And it's honestly great to see this level of consistency and stability with the firm, at least. But
Yeah, and you see that as well. Also, obviously, it's a startup, right? So things aren't going as smooth as they should in some cases, and it was really crazy to see, especially since last year up until now, how everyone is stuck together and no one has caused any major problems. Everyone continued to be working on the same mission, the same path forward in one direction, right? And this was truly amazing to see. And which is also why, we say that everyone who's in Bloxley now will definitely have a very nice future. And this just goes to show that if the culture is good, the people are going to stick to it, right? As opposed to, I've seen it before. It's not the first startup that I've done or that I've worked at or I've advised. And they could also be the case that once things aren't going as smoothly, people just leave, right, instantly, and cause a lot of friction in the business. And I think, it's insane to see. And I'm very proud of that this has not been the case so far.
It'd be fun someday too, because we've talked so much about the culture, it would be fun someday to actually go through the history of Bloxley, because we've had so many up and downs, and the podcast would probably be about 5 hours and nobody would listen to it.
That's true.
But we actually have had a lot of adversity at Bloxley, not staff-wise, but company-wise. It would be great to get into sometime. So, Leon, I mean, with all this adversity, what's your approach to to making decisions? Like I know that there's not always a straightforward correct path.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what the decision is, right? But if we're talking about big company decisions in terms of what provider we're going to use, right? You can stack certain decisions into compartments, right? There's the easier ones, and then there's the very tough ones where you're going to, okay, is it the left or is it the right door? And whatever door you pick, you stick with, right? And you're stuck with for quite some time. And it could be the wrong decision, right? So I think it's, for me, always been a good benefit that we've kind of very early had a lot of people in the business, and we've always taken everyone's opinion into account when making a key decision. Obviously, when it's on a business level and it's more high level, then I would consolidate with my co-founder Emmanuel, right, who's also running the show on a day-to-day basis, and we always get to consensus quite quickly, right? There's not always an agreement from the get-go, but we've kind of always went about it very, very structurally, writing things down, evaluating pros and cons, and then it's about making a decision and also going with that decision, because most of them can't be reversed once they're done. So you kind of have to push through them. And even though sometimes it turned out to not have been the right one, I think we've made it work so far. And that has always been our approach, right? So it's very safe to say that being alone as a leader is, I think, much harder than if you're 2 or 3 people who can make a decision collaboratively.
I mean, is there a time where it hasn't been the right decision, like you just mentioned, and then we as a company have been able to learn from that and become a better company?
Yeah, definitely. Right. I think every company has that, and I think you grow from it, right? It's not that you look at it and say, "Oh God, why have we done that?" I think you take it in and you say, "Okay, for next time, we are equipped to make the better decision next time." But it's super difficult to say, because there can be decisions that you only notice after 2 years after having taken them, turning out to be not the right one, right? You don't always immediately see the effect. So as I said, it's about making an informed decision, and if that turns out to be not the right one, so be it, right? And as long as we can survive and we can go around that impact, I think we will always be on a good path to succeeding and making it work, right?
So, yeah, let's switch topics here a little bit and let's start talking about security. And I know that's a big issue right now. I know there was one story I read about recently where we had poisoning attacks, and effectively what happened was somebody snuck their account number into a list of account numbers, and all of a sudden one user ended up transferring millions of dollars to this hacker who just managed to get their account number and a list of account numbers that the first user copy and pasted. So when they copy pasted what they thought was their account number, it ended up being the hacker's account number, and all the money got transferred out. And I know this is something that security is something that Bloxley takes really seriously. We're trying to create a new and a better bank. Can you talk a little bit about Bloxley's approach to fintech security?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, that is, I would say, a more common issue in traditional banks, right? Where you write down a bank number, you put your little slip into a case. At least that's how it works in Germany, and then the money is transferred, right? There's no second authentication. And what is great about being digital first and only being a digital bank as opposed to being a traditional bank that has actual places you can go is exactly that 2-factor authentication, right? And you cannot make a transaction by just copy and pasting the wrong bank address into Bloxley, right? It would always double check with you. See, is that actually what you want to do? It would ask multiple times, is that what you want to do? And if we really think that it is a malicious transaction, then we would just block it and ask for two-factor authentication, right? There's only so much that you can do. There will always be people who unfortunately will get scammed. We can just at Bloxley ensure that we have at least the fallback options, that if people run into those problems, that we deal with them as smooth and as efficiently as possible. And I think we've developed quite a good scheme with our partners in being able to tackle that, not just transaction that you manually enter, but also being it card transactions that don't maybe match the point of where you're at the moment, right? So I could have a Bloxley card and be spending, throughout the day in Germany, and then all of a sudden a transaction occurs in the United States that would instantly probably be blocked and asked for authentication because it doesn't match the place where you are at, right? And we've taken a lot of initiative, especially on the IT layer. And I think we're very, very prone to combat anything that comes our way. And being digital first, again, just helps that part because we can two-factor everything and validate everything on the spot.
One term I'm hearing a lot now is the term of abstraction. And I think it goes hand in hand with creating that great user experience. One thing we're really proud and passionate about at Bloxley is the BloxID, where we're saying, okay, well, you no longer need that account number, right? Account numbers were never meant for what we use them for right now. Account numbers were something invented back in the 1940s and 50s, where you'd have your checkbook and your account number would be a secret. Now, of course, we use them all the time on the internet. And so the idea to take this archaic long string of numbers and turn it into something that people can immediately understand and see and process and use that to create a better user experience. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how security and a good user experience is going hand in hand?
Yeah, so the BloxID, I think first and foremost is all about that user experience. We've designed and built the entire app to be user focused, right? And every process that we've designed, everything that we've looked at, we've always gone into how can we make that more smooth? How can we make it quicker, right? And the BloxID is a way to attach any piece of information that you would potentially need to making a transfer, being it on the fiat side or then later also on the crypto side, that you need to interact, right? So I can give you an example. The BloxID could be SAM123, right? And you could attach your banking details there. You could also attach your crypto wallets there. And then at a point in time, you no longer need to input those banking details or those crypto wallet numbers. You would just input SAM123 and the system would automatically know where it goes, right? In terms of security, it will definitely act as a single source of trust, right? Especially in our closed Bloxley ecosystem. We do aim to also expand that and open that for other banks to go into or other fintechs to tap into the BloxID, because we see it a little bit like logging in with Apple, right? You download a new app and you always have the option to immediately fill out any details that you want with the Apple, right? Apple Passkey. And so that is kind of what we envision at a point in time. You log into your brokerage. Well, why create a new account? Why do a new KYC when you might have it inside of the Bloxley app already, or you could just log in with your BloxID and we already have passed the KYC. It's compliant, it's conform, so you automatically can log in, and that it's supposed to be that, right? It's one identity, and then it's two also the user experience and making everything run more smoothly. Again, lower the possibility of scams or doing mistakes yourself, right? It happens. A lot of people send money to the wrong person, and yeah, we're trying to eliminate that.
So what you're saying is basically post the KYC and everything. It's as easy as, let's say tomorrow I want to send a TikTok or reel to Sam. It's that easy to just put in his ID like it's Instagram and send the money over instead of, let's say, a reel or a TikTok.
Well, yeah,
And
that's definitely the vision, yeah.
and you're saying it's more secure than, let's say, the traditional banking systems of like the old format of those long numbers and everything, which to be honest, I've never used. But yeah, it's more secure than that, and it's as easy as sending a reel. I'm sure people will be interested in my generation for that, because I think the only thing we know is, well, how to send reels to our friends. But yeah, I'm glad that is the goal. Makes it a lot easier for us, and I'm sure people will be interested in that. Now,
Yeah.
obviously discussing traditional banking systems and the security side. Moving on a bit to, let's say, the time it takes to actually process those payments. Normally, from what we know, it's 3 to 5 days. Yeah, Bloxley has come in. We're aiming to go for real-time payments using FedNow. What is it that we're actually doing with FedNow and real-time payments that actually makes it a lot easier and essentially makes it as easy as sending a reel to our friends. I mean, in that case.
Well, and to jump in there really quickly too, I think what a lot of people might not know, especially if you're in the US, you have things like Zelle, and we think those are instantaneous, right? We think that if my wife or my friend sends me money via Zelle and it shows up in my checking account immediately, it really is immediately, and it's not. It's actually a short-term loan the bank is giving me to make it look instantaneous. And so, I think the industry is really now trying to move to actual instantaneous payments in those rails. So how is Bloxley? How is Bloxley? So what I'm looking for at the forefront of this.
Well, again, this goes into the user experience again, right? I always absolutely hate it when I send a transfer and it takes, as you say, 3 to 5 business days to arrive, right? This can't be the standard that we are looking for. And in terms of the user experience, we've always said we want to enable everyone, right, with the tools to instantly pay. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Your rent or whatever it is, as a later stage, also businesses to pay out their employees. There's nothing more frustrating when payments don't arrive on time. And for us, it was always, we have real-time payments, as you said, at the core, as the core product, right? If you want to send a Swift, right, we are still prone to that network, even though there are also different routes that we are exploring currently with stablecoin transfers who make it much, much quicker. But definitely you can see everything that we do in life. We always want to get it done right now, and we don't want to wait, right? It's frustrating. And so this is what we are doing. And we are also aiming to provide that service as the core product for everyone for free. Doesn't matter if you're a basic user or you're premium or you subscribe to one of our memberships, right? That should be the standard Bloxley product, that payments arrive when you send them, right? Obviously, there's not every bank inside of that network as of right now, but the majority of people would be covered by that, right? And that is what we want to do.
And I mean, even from one BloxID to another, I'm sure this will be an instant transfer, right?
Right. So that would be immediately transfer, absolutely no cost, right? When it stays inside of the Bloxley ecosystem, even once we open that BloxID ecosystem to others to use, that is always going to be instant and absolutely for free.
Yep. And let's say, so we've reached basically a point where I send a reel to Sam, it's instant. I want to get an essay, ChatGPT will do it instantly for me. Why are we waiting 3 to 5 days with traditional banking systems to settle a payment when apps like Bloxley are there, especially Bloxley, which we can settle a payment instantly, essentially, using this. I do see this something that people my generation will be really after, with people having shorter attention spans and everything.
Well,
Exactly.
I think it's more than shorter attention spans. I think it's that expectation. I know one thing, having a crypto marketing background, one of the things we talked a lot about was the expectations of users, where users have their investment or checking account and they expect their crypto wallet to act like that. And one of the things that crypto is doing is moving towards that kind of ease of use. And I think there's the opposite is true also, where Gen Z, because they're used to using crypto, because they're used to these instantaneous transactions, where the money really does move around instantaneously. Your Bitcoin moves instantaneously from one account to another or near instantaneous within like 5 minutes, not 3 to 5 days. I think Gen Z and maybe even younger millennials expect that same kind of speed with their normal finances. And when they don't get that, because they know it's possible. And so when they don't get that, it's frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another point that we've missed here is also the security aspect of it again, not necessarily from a backend perspective, but it's the perception that matters here as well, right? After all, it's your money, right? You should be able to do with that whatever you want. There shouldn't be any delays of 3 to 5 days or even longer sometimes, right, in sending payments, because you've initiated that payment to be sent to that receiver. And once it's validated, it should arrive, right? I mean, it frustrates me, for example, when trying to, or in the United States, I know it's a fact, right? Try and go to a bank and withdraw $10,000 in cash. It's almost impossible. The bank acts like you're some sort of criminal who wants them to gift you a pile of cash, but it's not like that. It's your money, you've earned it, and you should be able to do with that whatever you want. And the expectation of payments to be received immediately, I think, it's very, very important.
Well, it's funny because we grew up when we grew up and we went to school and they taught us about banking. They're like, oh, it's your money, and the bank is borrowing your money. And I think we've hit this point where we realize that's slowly becoming less and less true, where it's no like, you're right. You want your money from the bank, and the bank treats you like her. Like, what? Why do you want 10,000? Why should we take $10,000 out of our account and give it to you? And I think there's that underlying mistrust where people are going, well, is that because you want to keep that money in your account and keep making interest off of it? And we kind of know that that's a big thing where the 3 to 5 day payments. Well, part of that time, that money is sitting in an account accruing interest. So all the people living off the system along the way can get their cut.
Exactly. And for us, it was always, the key thing, I would say, and how we approach things is, after all, we're dealing with people's money, right? It's their hard-earned money that they need to sustain their life. And so, giving off that perception of that it's actually your money and you can freely choose what to do and who's receiving that, I think that is really, really important.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like to see is where it just looking back at banking systems historically. First, we had cash, which was almost untrackable for people to see, okay, where is this cash gone? What have you spent it on? And everything, all your payments are postal. Then we got into this level of banking, which is all by credit cards and the different payment systems, the traditional banking formats. And that's where the bank is now controlling everything. And it's a sort of sense of control that they have over, I'd say, your money in sorts. And now I think stuff like crypto coming in over there, it kind of gives you that freedom again to a certain extent with your digital payments and everything, using, I'd say, a better system than the archaic banking technologies out there. And also it has this, it's similar to cash, which is, it's not as trackable, obviously. So I think it and obviously it being instant, those are two factors which I think people in my generation will fully enjoy, is the privacy side of it, and also it just being instant. And is obviously where Bloxley is heading in the correct direction.
To move on to that final topic there, back in the day, we got charged checking account fees, and it was frustrating because I want to open up a checking account, and just to open up the checking account, the bank is like, okay, well, I want $10 a month from you just for that, or $8 a month just for the pleasure of being able to write a check. Eventually that went away. Now I think most of us, the expectation is that when you open up an account, it's free. And now we're seeing the industry kind of move back, because I at least my take on it as banking is becoming fintech, the expectations are there's more features, right? There should be a premiumization of banking where banking is tailored to me, and the bank is providing me a lot more services, and whatever either brick and mortar or more likely app we're using, we expect a lot more features. And with those features comes development costs, and with those development costs, somebody's got to put the bill for that. And so we're starting to see tiered subscriptions pop up again, because it helps those fintech companies provide a premium feel. Leon, do you want to talk more about that?
About the memberships, or about
about memberships, and kind of that premiumization of banking, and how those two things are going hand in hand, and how is Bloxley providing a premium service?
Right. So I think that's very, very easy to structure. As a core product that, as you said, should be free, right? No fee checkings account, and also have standardized features absolutely for free for the ordinary customer. I think it's, for every fintech out there, that's the key to succeed, right? You have to be able to offer a product, because not everyone from the first instance says, okay, I want a new Bloxley account and I'm going to close my JP Morgan Chase, right? That is very unlikely to happen. But as you add those memberships in, and as you add more features that you actually get from those memberships, it kind of gives the user a little bit of commitment. Well, I'm paying $2.99 here every month, and actually I do all of the management of my finances over that platform, as opposed to my normal checkings account that I've been having for the past 10 years. So why do I even receive my salary in that account? I could just receive it directly into Bloxley. right? And you only achieve that if you capture the people by offering a product that is awesome and it's for free and you can use it no matter what. There's no limitations, there's no minimum fee, there's nothing that you need, right? But then adding value through those memberships by even lowering additional benefits or more expensive transactions by cutting down the costs, right? Or being able to offer them, benefits outside of the platform, right? With other partners that we would be gathering. Suddenly the people say, well, this is not just a bank. This is actually more like a lifestyle app that I can choose to do more or less anything that I want with my money. And they do it in such a way that it actually is fun to open the app and do that, right? It's not a burden anymore. It becomes part of my life that I actually want to do. And that's how you drive people from being the normal customer that enjoys the free benefits, right? Which is great, by the way. But you also drive a sense of community when the people subscribe to those higher tier memberships and you provide them value that they actually need in their life, right? I'm not talking about, you gather over the past 2 years, you've gathered 10,000 points. Well, now you can buy a microwave for 50% off, right? That's not going to cut it, especially not for the target group that we envision. So it's about finding that sweet spot of what actually matters for the people in the day-to-day lives and how can we tap into that. And for the most part of it is, how do I save money, right? Where can I maybe save a little bit of money, or how can I more effectively manage my money? That is like the core feature of it, right? And on the other side of it is as well, is if I suddenly wake up and I see, well, I can do anything that I want with my money on that account, as opposed to JP Morgan, right? Or whatever bank it is, I will move over there, right? So we are well aware that the people are, once we've launched, are not going to say, well, I'm going to drop all of my other banks and go straight to Bloxley. That's not how fintech works, right? But it's the how do you say it? It's the mission and also the purpose of a fintech and our responsibility to kind of show the people, well, this is actually a better place, right? Your money is equally as safe. You earn similar interests and you can actually do much more with it in a much more friendly environment, right? And especially in a more user-focused environment.
Yep.
I think that's really interesting. I think that's something that's maybe been missing from fintech, is that sense of community, right? We don't have community with brick and mortar banks unless it's to talk about, oh man, those overdraft fees I got the other day, they're such a headache. But to be able to build a positive community around finances, I think, is something that a differentiator that just doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, no, there's only a very few players that get it somewhat right. Even though I would still argue that even the big fintechs, they still bloat their ecosystem with things that not everyone needs, right? Maybe they can get a good deal with that company and they've reached a certain point where a lot of other companies wanting to, have a deal with them, but it doesn't really add any value, right? And so for us, it was always the core mission is, how do we make the product as attractive as possible? How do we make the people actually feel special when they open the app? And I think that's the key, right? It's not just the card that is obviously, the only touch point that you would, or the only physical product that you would be getting from us, but it's making everyone feel special and treated the same, right? So that you actually enjoy open the app, and it becomes more of like a lifestyle brand that you want to interact with, rather than just being like a bank that a lot of people still perceive as super negative. So yeah, that's definitely on us to get that right.
Yeah, it's that fallacy of the everything app, where everybody wants to make the everything app. Everybody's like, Elon Musk with X, he says, okay, we're going to turn X, we're going to do finance, we're going to do crypto trading, we're going to have everything in there. But when you bloat with everything and you try to open the app, you lose usability, right? You can no longer find the things that you actually need.
Yep. I think
That's
that
true.
also it's also similar to, I think, what we discussed earlier, having that sense of community, not only internally, obviously, with the employees, but also externally in terms of how people view us and how people interact with Bloxley. Okay. I think that is the end of our podcast. Thank you, Leon, so much for coming on board. And hopefully,
you.
we would like to see how, and hopefully our viewers would also like to see how Bloxley progresses. And yeah, we do hope to bring you on sometime soon post-launch too for the podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to come back anytime.